Hi everybody, it's Louie back at the Swiss Army trailer, and now we're going to lay out 3 axles on it and make them so that they follow one another and go down the road straight and not have any unusual tire wear. So here's how I do it. So I have the trailer perfectly level now. I have some beams up here, aluminum I-beams. See that right there, that stuff right there? Long and straight. And I'm going to get some stands that I have. A couple crappy ones, but still nevertheless stands that are the same size. I'll put one right there. And move the jack and put one right here. Set this on top of the stand. There, so now I got square up against the sidewall, and this is offset by like 1.125. So obviously this axle, or the spacer on the front of it, there's a spacer behind it, because I had other rims that I needed to space, and then once I bought these ones, well, they already had an offset that I needed, so it was kind of redundant. But in any case, I think I had to take the spacer out of there and see if I can sort this out. See, this here's perfectly lined up, almost. I'm going to take another 2 axle stands, and I'm going to put another beam like that across there. So let's do that. Okay, so I need to make sure that this is perfectly square. Right there. And it's touching on both sides of the tire. So now I can clamp that, and this has got a clamp here. Right at the intersection. There. Now this is clamped here. Now we need to sort out, it's touching on the sidewall here, and I'm intersecting here perfectly. So this side is good. This is good, and that's good. Now I can get the tape measure and see what's going on here, because where the ball is right now, it looks like it's off on one side. So let's measure this once again. Measured from that point right there, that little blue line right there, all the way to the middle of that red line right there, that V, and that's where my tongue actually needs to sit. I am out, so I'm gonna have to move the tongue over about 1/2 inch, 3/4 of an inch. Slide it over until the middle of that blue dot right there lines up with that crotch of those 2 intersecting pieces of steel. So I measured from that blue line to that crotch, and those are both the same, and I'm touching on the wheel well, the tire edges out here. Making sure everything stays, and then once you do that, then you gotta measure everything and make sure nothing's moved. Once you do that, I want the distance between these two frame rails to be the same front and back. So let's make sure it's measured front and back the same. So now I tightened this axle. I needed to move this axle in a bit, like 1/4 of an inch. And that one had to go out a bit, so I had to split 1/2 an inch between those two. So now I got it. It's 11 3/4 over here and 11 3/4 over here, distance from the frame to the side wall of the tire. So, okay, to recap, this is square. From that blue dot to that crotch right there is exactly 59 3/4. And from that blue dot, from that red crotch right there to that blue dot right there is 59 3/4. We're touching on the sidewalls over here of the first axle. We're square here. And then down at the back, on this side here, we're touching on the sidewalls. And then I took a bar across here and I measured the distance from there to there, and it's exactly 99 3/8. So we got a reading of 99 3/8. And up there it's 99 3/8. So we're pretty well square here now. So I have to move the tongue over 3/4 of an inch. Make the blue line match up to the crotch where the red line is. So that's that. So we're all set up here. That's nice and square. The distance between the two rails is exactly 99 3/8 inches. So now I can set up my other axle in the back and we're good to go. I measured from tread to the beam here and it's exactly 49 inches on both sides. So that first axle in relation to that spot right there is like right on the money. So I have both axles in now and they're lined up, and now I can basically work on the third axle at the back. Okay, here we are at the Swiss Army trailer, and I got the hydraulics working now, and I'm going to just do a demonstration here on how this functions. So here's the pen and control. There's a switch there to that side, switch there to that side. That's extend, this is retract, and in the middle is the box going up in the air. So here we go, we press this button in the middle and that powers the power pack and it makes the box dump up. And then this button at the bottom here, you press that, and that makes it go down. And then when you want to operate the gantry crane, I have a rod right here that I push in, and that changes the circuit. And then what I do is I put, I think it's this way. This powers up. And it bottoms out there because the cylinder is fully lengthened. And now if I want to, I can go, if I want to get closer to the ground to lift something off the ground, instead of using the gantry crane, I can pull this out. And then I can put this in neutral again, and I can power up the box. And I can get closer to the ground. And now if I want to hook on something there, and then I want to lift it up, then I just use the weight of the box to lift it up if it's heavy enough. And then I'll put this back in, and then put it over to this side, and then hit the middle power button. And what's cool about it is there is a knob right here that I can adjust, turn it out a bit more, and then that allows me to flow more fluid and go a lot faster. There, so whatever I lifted up is now in the middle of the box, and now I can tie it down with some straps and drive away. So that's the gist of that part of it finally. So now I need to rig up that third axle over there in front of the tent and make that so that it pivots up and down and locks in place. I have some short hydraulic cylinders, and I have some more solenoids that I can use to divert fluid into another circuit, and then I'll make it so that I can drop the axle down when I need to tip something up onto it. I don't want it lifting off the tongue when all the weight is on the back of the trailer, so that axle right there will actually go down and support it tipping and balking up on the tongue. And then once it's up on, then I can just raise the axle and it'll lift off the road, and then I'll be able to steer better with the double axle instead of the triple. But if I need to haul a bobcat or something that's more than 10,000 pounds, then I'll drop that axle, and that will become supporting part of the load. So there we go. Here, I'll show you what I did. So here's my rod for changing the mode from the hydraulic cylinders on the side to the hydraulic cylinders under the bed. And then this here's a box that I put in here, and this here is basically the controls right there on that mechanical valve, and basically the fluid comes in this hose right here. This hose here goes into that valve, and if I want to run the power pack, I put it in this position, or in the other position, and make it go in. Then it diverts fluid to go down here through this valve, which is normally closed, and then I open that up so it flows in there and extends through that hose there and that hose there. Then when I flick the switch on the pending control the opposite way, like that, I get that closing off, that valve right there closing off, and this one over here, this one right here opens up, and then it blows, it pressurizes fluid through this manifold, through those two hoses. So one goes over there and the other one goes over there, and that's retract. And at the same time, this valve, right, it's hard to point it out and look at the camera, this valve right here actually allows fluid to come back from the extent, or from the tract, and shoot into this hydraulic hose, which is teed into this control valve right here, so that I can control the flow back to the reservoir. And the same goes for the other side. When I click that switch right there the other way, then that one right, let's see if I got this right, yeah, that one right there opens up, number 4, and allows fluid to go back through the hose and tee into this, and then go through this valve and get dumped into the reservoir. So I had 2 hoses before, and I'm just going to put a plug in there for now. I think I'm going to have another circuit on here eventually, and I may be able to use that hole for the bleed back on the next circuit. But for now, what I got to do is I'm going to notch the top of the box right there, and then I want to put these wires in a sheath like this and make it this all neat, and then block that hole off right there around where the hose goes through, and maybe put a little grommet in there. And there's another hole right there that needs to be welded up and blocked off. But basically that's it. I finally got it working. I don't need these solenoids here, those 4 corners there. I figured it out, I don't need them. So eventually what I'll do is I'll buy some elbows, and I'll hook them onto that T right there on both sides, and then bring the hoses into the elbows, and then I can save those things for another circuit, because what I want to do is put live power on the tongue here so that I can run something else, jaws of death, for log splitter, anything hydraulic, that I want to use. How I could even make a hydraulic vise out on the front of the trailer. So it's only limited by your imagination. So then I'll be able to just block one off, and then have another valve that opens up to divert fluid to go up hoses that go on to some quick connects on the tongue here, up here on the tongue somewhere. So anyways, that's that, and what I'll do now is I'll let it down. And it's just as simple as powering up the solenoid and letting it down. And then because this this box is pretty deep and has a fair amount of room in there, I'm thinking I'm going to take 2 of these batteries and stick them inside there. Hopefully I can get them wiggled in there, and then that will be the power pack for the power pack to run everything.